Live.
There we are.
Hello, everybody.
Good job, Podfeet. Yeah, the portrait mode is working. Look at that. Now, are there artifacts we need to be watching out for here? We'll leave it like this for a little bit, see how it works.
What do you guys think? A lot of times I find these effects really distracting. But this seems to be doing a fairly good job. Okay, Sandy says, still waiting to see the effect. All right, Alan says it's time for roll call.
Good job, Alan.
Alan and Kevin and Jason and Frank and Jill and John and Rose and Sandy and Michael, who's in the sidebar here. John again. Did I already call it John? Yeah, I called it John already. And Rose. How are you, Rose? And Frank is still in the hospital? Did he not get sprung yet? He's
been in and out.
Can never have enough Johns. Where's Jonathan? He's usually here by now. All right. Why am I still getting notifications? I am in Do Not Disturb. Okay, let me try a different one.
It's inexplicable.
Let's just try full on Do Not Disturb. See how that works. I think it was in my podcasting mode, which Telegram does not respect. All right. I have got to get started because it's almost all me today. Oh, let me save this as something. And see, yep. I am getting the weirdest problem. Sandy, shoot. You probably didn't see it just happen. Look at what happened. I typed NCEP semicolon, which should type this and put it to the left of NHSX. But instead, it sort of partially duplicates the extension and then adds the extension at the end and then puts my text at the end. And this is happening in all apps.
How annoying.
Yeah. So that has to be here on this side. I almost feel like my Mac is too fast. Like it's actually typing it faster than it can record it. That's kind of what it feels like. All right, muting Steve. All right. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, November 21st, 2021, and this is show number 863. We've got a really big show today with lots of fun things to talk about, so let's dig right in. And chapter mark. Let's see, back here. And we'll do this, copy link. I might have been a little verbose in this post because I was worried I didn't have enough content. All right. There we go. A few weeks ago, I told you the glorious news that Apple had implemented pivot tables in Numbers. I told you with breathless excitement how much I love pivot tables and how thrilled I was. I then told you how to actually use them with a real-life example. I tried to convey my excitement in a way that would convince you that you, too, could know the joy of pivot tables in an app that comes free with your Mac. I was so excited by the new pivot table capability that I decided it was worthy of a video tutorial for Screencasts Online. When I'm really excited about a tool, the video is so much easier to do, and this one was a complete joy. I showed how to do the same pivot table on the Mac, iPad, and iPhone, adding tidbits along the way to show how awesome they are on all of the devices. While I was working on the tutorial, I happened to be chatting with Terry Austin on Telegram, and I mentioned I was doing a new tutorial for Screencasts Online. He told me, great! He said he really enjoys my tutorials. I took that as high praise because Terry does video tutorials himself, so he knows how hard it is to do them well. Then I told him the next one I was going to be doing was going to be on pivot tables, and he wrote back one word: pass. Well, I thought that was really interesting, so I took a few paragraphs to tell him why I thought they're cool and the problem they solve, and I gave him a few examples, and then he said, hey, I've got these rosters of students I'm working with that are a real pain to manipulate. I wonder if pivot tables could help. I should watch this. Now think about the problem I face with the rest of the Screencast Online audience. I have to hook them quickly. I have to come up with some good examples that would get them to maybe play more than the first 5 seconds. So the ideas I came up with were, perhaps you're a sysadmin at a university and have a 3,000-line spreadsheet with user IDs, class names, instructors, and testing requirements, and you need to condense these down to some actionable information. That was actually sort of a melding of the problem that Terry's trying to solve with some problems that Bart often has to solve at the university where he works. My next idea was, maybe you're the manager of a large city's intramural sports team and you've got detailed data about the players, the sports they're playing, the field names, and the coaches. You need situational awareness in case a storm was coming through town on how to contact people efficiently. Then I thought, maybe you've been doing freelance work. You've downloaded all of your income and expense and you want to figure out where your income is coming from by category. What if you downloaded your health data for all your exercise and you want to obsess over it, but you need to see it summarized by type of exercise with total calories burned? So I thought maybe those 4 ideas would kind of trigger people to pay attention, but I had to get them to push play first. So I talked to Don McAllister, who writes a newsletter where he describes the tutorial, and I explained that it's a tough subject to get people to watch and asked maybe he could help pump up the excitement. Luckily, Don is a big fan of pivot tables too, and here's what he wrote. I wanted to give a big plug for the full Screencast Online tutorial this week, Pivot Tables in Numbers. Pivot tables are fantastic, and their omission for numbers was probably the reason I kept a copy of Excel on my Mac. Pivot tables just make it so easy to manipulate and analyze huge data sets, and I can't think of anyone better to illustrate that than Allison Sheridan. She is also a huge fan of those. Heck, she even thinks using them is fun. Don't be put off if you're not a huge spreadsheet user. Pivot tables have many uses, and Allison's enthusiasm for them shines through in this week's show. Be sure to check it out. Well, anyway, I tell you all that because if you've been hanging back on the subject of pivot tables and you aren't yet convinced, I hope you'll take a look at the teaser video I've posted in the show notes and consider trying out the free 7-day trial of the Screencast Online tutorial service so you can watch this tutorial and the amazing back catalog of content. If you're already a subscriber to Screencast Online, please push play. I promise it's really, really fun. Okay.
Good start there. Got off nice and fast.
Chapter mark.
Yes.
I mean, got started quickly, you mean?
Yeah. Nice pace, no dawdling.
All right. We are going to start with Caleb Fong next. Let's do a chapter mark, shall we?
We shall.
Actually, where's Mike? We have Michael, no Mike.
Are we Mikeless?
No, we've got one.
That's Michael.
We just don't have a full set. Yeah, we've got Michael, but not Mike.
We don't have a pair of Mikes.
It's sort of like having 2 Johns, John and Jonathan, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or Frank and Frank.
Yes, exactly. All right, I think Caleb introduced himself. Let me check. Thank you for the reminder. I think I'm going to notice that, Kevin. Well, you guys have been busy. 52 messages since I looked last. Is Bodie here?
Oh, is Bodie here? I didn't see him.
Oh. He's in the sidebar. He might be.
Oh, he is in the sidebar, but
might be on
he may
own.
not be actually listening at the time.
Oh,
if he is, he will probably chime in.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of the special effect? Do you like it or do you hate it? Is it good enough or is it distracting?
You're talking about portrait mode in the camera?
Yeah. From what I can see, it looks pretty good, but I'm seeing you in a thumbnail about this big.
I think it looks fine.
Oh, she can't see Baby Yoda, though. That's right.
Yeah, Baby Yoda's a little blurred out. So is full-size
There's big
Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Well, that's Baby Yoda, too.
He's just big
It's just
Baby
a
Yoda.
little teeny tiny Baby Yoda. Oh, well, hang on. We can fix this. Oh, I didn't even clean up here.
No, it's maybe it's good you are blurry back there.
Can't even tell.
Oh, it's weird. It's now focusing on you way back there, so we saw all the trash.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Here. Let's put Baby Yoda right here.
Mini Baby Yoda. Is it Grogu? I think the name is.
I don't know.
Something like that. Grogu.
Let's see. Maybe.
He's a little low. Well, we can see the top of him there.
Well, I'm trying to get him somewhere where he can hold on. There. How's that?
That's
there.
okay.
Now you can see him, and I'm out of focus, right?
Yeah, he's focusing on Grogu.
Well, that's what she wanted. I do what the audience wants, and if Sandy wants it. All right, let me hit play here and see how this transition goes. And please push play. I promise. It's really, really fun.
Greetings, Captain Allison and fellow NosillaCast castaways. This is a quick review of the Heyday wireless molded tip braided earbuds.
Okay, I'm going to need to slide him over because he does not introduce himself. And I'm also going to add a noise reduction because he's got a little bit of a hiss on the line there. All right. Caleb is an Oops. Next up, we've got a review from Caleb Fong. And let's see. Switch now. It's really, really fun. Next up, we've got a review from Caleb Fong.
Greetings, Captain Allison and fellow NosillaCast castaways.
Just a little bit. What?
Looks like Discord changed the way they handle screenshots or images.
Caleb Fong.
Greetings, Captain Allison and fellow NosillaCast castaways. This is a quick review of the Heyday wireless molded tip braided earbuds. In the grand NosillaCast tradition, what is the problem to be solved?
Oh, that's all you're going to get.
No, boy, you're going to cut us short there, huh?
I am. I have lots of work to do.
Oh, yeah, this next one is...
Yeah, they're long. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to mute you here for a second.
Right price. See you all later, and remember, stay subscribed.
Oh, I think I'm going to cut him a little bit there.
For keeping expensive things. If any of may not have the best reputation for keeping expensive things. If any of these are true, these may be a good balance of good enough at the right price. See you all later, and remember, stay subscribed. See you all later, and remember, stay subscribed.
Well, I love that, Caleb, because we tend to do a lot of reviews of super expensive stuff, and having something like you say that's good enough at a great price, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that review of the Heyday molded tip Bluetooth earbuds. All right, now it's time to complain about spaces. There are already there's already comments on this. 3 comments on this one. So I think this will be a recurring topic next week. Oh, he said to do a chapter mark, didn't he?
That would be good.
And I almost missed it. All right. I'm worried about Mike. He never doesn't show up. All right, and here. And here. All right. Do you use spaces, Steve?
No.
Nope.
Wait.
Okay. That's not the right picture.
That was
weird.
What the heck happened there? I can exit out, but it's like it remembered. So I pasted that in earlier. It's like it did not take what I had pasted and it took it now. Maybe I didn't hit return.
All right, muting Steve. I know a lot of people, like Bart, love spaces on macOS and couldn't live without them. But for some reason, I cannot figure out how to make them work for me. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of spaces, but they seem to make my workflow much less efficient. Before we get in too deep, let me explain what spaces are, just in case someone isn't familiar with the concept. On macOS, if you do a 4-fingered swipe up on a magic trackpad or double tap with 2 fingers on a magic mouse, you'll reveal all of your open windows on your desktop. And then the menu bar at the top will say Desktop or possibly desktop 1 if you have multiple monitors attached. This view you're now in is called Mission Control. You can also get to Mission Control with an Apple keyboard using the F3 key. If you've got a Touch Bar Mac, you're on your own figuring out which virtual key to use. I tested it and I could not find a combination to make the option available with Touch Bar. It's probably there, but I couldn't figure it out. Once you have Mission Control activated, if you bring your cursor to the top of the screen, the area where Desktop 1 was displayed will expand to reveal a thumbnail of your desktop with all of its open windows sprinkled all over it. Desktop 1 is your one and only space. Remember, I'm going to be saying Desktop 1 because I have multiple monitors. If you only have one, it'll just say Desktop. On the far right of the screen, you'll see a plus button inviting you to add another space. Another method to create a second space is to drag the app you want in a separate space up onto that area at the top of the screen. It will automatically create it when you let go. I think this doesn't have some changes I made. In fact, I know it doesn't have some changes I made. I'm going to refresh it. Hold, please. 75 new messages. Oh, it's just not noticing that I've been watching. Okay. Oh, you haven't been able to get your head around spaces either. Okay.
So,
all right. Well, that's.
There was a suggestion that it's a 3-finger swipe up, not 4, by Eric. Eric from, I think, Canada. Eric in Canada.
Are you talking on? No, it's definitely
Discord?
not 3-fingered.
It's not 3? It's 4?
No, it's 4.
All right.
And it says 4 on, actually, it might be that you can change it if you go find Mission Control. Here we go. Let's see. Keyboard shortcuts. No. What is it? Mission Control here. Mission Control. And where is it? Okay, gestures. Where are gestures then? Trackpad gestures. Here we go. All right. It says right here, swipe up with 4 fingers. If I tap that, you can change it to swipe up with 3 fingers.
Oh, okay. So it's an optional.
So you guys must have changed yours. Oh, yeah. Eric from Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can change it. We are going to get into these controls next week because that's part of what Alistair responded with a bunch of stuff, tips on how he makes them work. What did I just... It will automatically create it when you let go. Okay. All right, here we go. Meeting Steve. The app you drag up into its own space will be automatically made full screen in that space. If you drag a second app into that space, Mission Control will put the 2 apps in a 1/3, 2/3 split view and keep filling the screen. You can modify that split ratio by sliding the drag handle between the 2 apps when you're in that space. Now that you've created a new space with that application, you can no longer see it because you're still in Desktop 1. To switch to the new space you just created, you have a couple of different options. If you repeat the gesture or function key dance to go into Mission Control, you can then tap on the space you want to enter at the top of the screen. Now, that's fun, once or twice, but you probably want a more efficient way to switch spaces. A 4-fingered swipe right-left on a magic trackpad or a 2-fingered swipe on a magic mouse will flip between them. If you prefer keystrokes, Control left and right arrow will flip you between spaces. Now that we know what spaces are, and we know how to make them, and we know how to move between them, let's back up and answer the question of what problem are we trying to solve? I can see several problems that spaces could solve for me if I could figure them out. First of all, no matter how many displays I have and how big they are, I still end up with windows littered all over the place, and I'm constantly moving them and hiding apps to get things out of my way. Right now, I've got a 14-inch MacBook Pro hooked up to the 30-inch XDR display, and for fun, I hooked up a vintage 27-inch Apple Cinema display. And yet, I'm still moving windows to try to see what I'm working on. And for those of you who are going to tell me to use Moom so that I have a specific place for specific apps, that doesn't work for me too. Wherever I put them, I end up wanting them someplace else almost immediately. Now, it is humanly possible to live a spaces-free life and not have the anarchy with which I live. I've seen it done in my own house. Steve has a 27-inch iMac with a 27-inch LG 5K display, and most of his applications live in very specific locations. He's got his messaging apps like Telegram and Messages and Tweetbot over on the LG, and they're arranged just so, and he uses Chrome in the middle of his iMac screen. I haven't studied what else he has arranged, but I know his display looks the same every time I walk into his den. Now, I've tried to be disciplined. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Now, I've tried to be disciplined, like I said, using Moom and everything, but invariably I'm working in 12 applications at once and they cannot maintain position and still allow me to get things done. If I put apps into different spaces, they would stay clean and neat because they'd either be in full screen or split screen mode, so my untidy habits could not take over. Now, Bart is very good at compartmentalizing his tasks, and I think it's one of the reasons he likes spaces. I imagine he keeps his messaging apps in their own space. This would allow him to focus on the task he's working on rather than having scrolling Twitter feeds or messages coming in and distracting him. You may have noticed that Bart is highly productive, and I think his use of spaces and other methods to focus is a big part of the reason why. In contrast, I have Telegram and messages and mail and Slack updating constantly in front of my eyes while I'm trying to write a blog post or outline a video tutorial. I even keep notifications turned on. If there's an animated GIF in any of those applications, all hope of focus is lost. In fact, while I was trying to write this up, I had the trackpad gestures preference pane open, and I couldn't stop looking at it out of the corner of my eye because it's got an animation on it. It would seem that I could benefit from using spaces to minimize these distractions and help me focus. However, in my repeated attempts over the last 5 years to make spaces work for me, after no more than a day, I disabled them again. I think I can articulate the reasons why, and maybe someone or many someones can help me figure out how to get over these hurdles. The main reason I keep abandoning spaces is that it feels far less efficient to work. I'm going to walk through some examples so I can explain in detail the kinds of problems I run into. Let's say I want to work on a blog post for the show. I write the blog post in Mars Edit, and as I'm describing how to do something in an app, I take screenshots of that app. I have them open in preview so I can save them to a specific directory in the Finder, and then I drag them into Mars Edit from the Finder. So I need Mars Edit, I need the app, I need the Finder all open at the same time. If I'm going to focus on blogging, I need those all together. And I also need the app that I'm writing about all in the same space. Now, remember I explained to you that you get 2 apps in split screen in a single space? Turns out you can't drag a third app into the space if you created it that way. That means in my blog space, I'd need the app and Mars Edit in one space, and after I save a screenshot, I'd have to flip back to the space with the Finder, and then how do I drag that screenshot into Mars Edit? Because Mars Edit isn't visible to me anymore. I end up dropping out of spaces to do it. Well, I did find a workaround to that problem. You can assign specific apps to all spaces, specific spaces, or no spaces at all. Not sure what that last option does. Does it never show up? It's not in space? I don't know. Isn't that like closing it? I'm not sure what that's for. But anyway, let's walk through how I would add the Finder to all spaces so that if I need to drag an image from the Finder, it would be available to me wherever I was. First, you need to create a second space, and I think this only works if you create an empty space with the plus button in Mission Control. Once an app is in full screen in a space, assigning an app to that space doesn't do anything. It doesn't change it. So to add a space or an app to spaces, you right-click in the dock on the icon for the app you want to show in all spaces. If it's not already in the dock, you'll need to launch the app so it's there for you to right-click on it. In the pop-up menu, choose Options, and then under Assign To, choose which desktop you want to assign it to. Or in my case, I would choose All Desktops. I want the Finder visible everywhere. Now, the reason this is useful, beyond being able to see the Finder in all desktops, is that when it opens in that new empty space, it does not open in full screen. That means we can have a lot of apps open in one space. Now you can open another application in that space, such as Mars Edit, Preview, and the app I'm writing about. Now, here's the downside to allowing an app to be in all spaces, also known as desktops. The first problem is that if an app is on all desktops, it's exactly the same in all desktops. If I open my weekly folder for my blog posts in Desktop 2, it opens that same folder in desktop one. Same folder in
How's that
desktop
helpful
one.
at all?
Folder in
How's that
desktop
helpful
one.
at all?
Folder in
How's that
desktop
helpful
one.
at all?
Folder in
How's that
desktop
helpful at all?
folder in
How's that helpful at all?
folder in
How's that helpful at all?
Al, we got a problem. We got the repeat. Okay, I just muted your audio because it was repeating. It's been a while since we've seen this. Let me see if it's done. Still going. Bear with us, audience. We will. Allison's working on this, probably trying to document and capture the situation. So give us a moment. You just signal me, Allison, when you think you've got it. Typing. Timeout. The blessing. T. Hold on. All right, we're going to do a little bit of testing here, folks. So let me do something. I'm going to enable Allison's audio again. So, do you hear that all in Discord when I turn that on? Multiple Allisons? I think I heard it, but it's hard because I'm hearing both Discord. Sandy, I just turned it on for the moment. I'll turn it on again. I'm not going to leave it on because it's too annoying. I'm going to turn it on for 2 seconds and please listen. Oh, it's not there. Okay, I think it's off now, Allison. Oh, she froze. I think she is restarting something here. So that part of the test is over. I think she's having to either reboot or restart some apps. There, she's back. So we're not hearing the sound now. Although I'm not sure I'm hearing you either. Telegram. Unmute you? I did. You're unmuted, but I... Can you talk again?
Okay, can you hear me now?
There. Now I can.
How many times do you hear me?
I hear you once.
Okay, let me go into...
They don't hear you in Discord yet.
Okay, I'm not... Discord didn't open for me. Let me see what happened to Discord.
She's coming. I hear her in on YouTube.
So,
well,
it might have been Memo Live that did it.
why do you think that?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay, I think she's back in Discord.
Okay. How
Yeah.
many of me do you hear?
2.
Okay, everybody else? Do I sound okay?
Yep.
So, Memo Live has a big warning on it, and it wasn't until I quit that you said it finally stopped.
Interesting. What was the warning?
The configuration of the selected audio device Universal Audio Thunderbolt changed. Additional channels may have become available.
Ooh, that sounds like a culprit.
Yeah. Okay. So, the
Where
good thing
were
is the recording is just fine.
Good.
So I don't think it could have been audio hijack, because audio hijack is what's feeding my audio directly to Hindenburg.
Okay.
So I'm suspicious. All right. I'm going to keep going here. Literally never want the Finder open to the same space. Okay. Everybody with me where I was? I would literally never want Finder open to the same place. Literally. Never. Okay, muting Steve. This happens with other apps too. Let's say I assign Safari to all desktops, and when I'm focusing on programming, I want pbs.bartificer.net open in that space. If I decide to take a break and blog for a while, in my blogging space, Safari will also be open to pbs.bartificer.net. If I change it in my blogging space and later go back to programming, I will have lost my place on Bart's site. Here's another big problem. I noticed that after a while, I'm assigning more and more apps to every space because I need them there, which means I've basically recreated the anarchy I had in the first place. I also have trouble if I get too many spaces open. Even with 3 separate desktops, I find myself flipping and flipping trying to figure out where I want to be. It seems I have to have different wallpaper backgrounds dedicated to the different contexts. No. I also have trouble if I get too many spaces open. It does seem to help to have different wallpaper backgrounds dedicated to the different contexts in which you want to work. So that kind of does help. For example, programming tends to lend itself to a darker view. I'm not sure why that is, because I generally don't like dark backgrounds to my apps, but I find myself working in VS Code with a dark background more often than not. If I have my code up in one space, I can right-click on the desktop and change the background to a dark gray. Even with a gray VS Code window, this still looks pretty good. It's clear at a glance which context I'm in. But now let's have another irritation of spaces. I did just what I described. I set the programming desktop to dark gray. In order to do that, it launched System Preferences to the desktop and screensaver pane for me to change that background. So far, so good. I decided I wanted to change the background in another space, so I flipped over to my blogging desktop and I decided to change the color of the background there. I right-clicked on the desktop, chose Change Desktop Background, and guess what happened? It flipped me over to my programming space because I'd left System Preferences open in that space. How annoying is that? All right, I'll quit System Preferences, flip back to my blogging space, right-click on the desktop again, and open System Preferences to change the color. That is super inefficient, and that kind of thing happens constantly when I'm working with spaces. Here's another example. In my blogging space, I took a screenshot for the show notes. As I mentioned, I have my screenshots automatically open in Preview, so I can entitle them, copy the name I gave it, and then save it to the right folder. When I took the screenshot in my blogging space, it flipped me over to my first desktop. Why? Because Preview was open in that space from a previous screenshot. But it's worse than that. When Preview opened over in that other space, the new screenshot... Actually, no. The new screenshot... When Preview opened, the new screenshot I had taken was not there. I flipped back to my blogging space and the new screenshot was there. Well, if it knew enough to open the screenshot in the right space, why did it flip me over to the other space first? Makes no sense. Side effects like this really interrupt the workflow for me. If I can't predictably know where a window is going to show up, how can I stay focused? Which is the whole purpose of using spaces. Even with spaces dedicated to certain activities and with the apps activated that I can predict I'll need in each space, there are these constant one-offs. Just while I was writing this up, I needed to send a message to my cat sitter. Well, I have a dedicated space for my messaging apps now. But I needed to refer to my calendar to tell her which dates to come. Guess what? Calendar isn't activated for my messaging space. I either have to flip back and forth, and this could be a flip across multiple spaces, and then hope that my little pea brain can remember the dates as I flip, or I have to pull one of the apps into the other space, thereby defeating the entire purpose of spaces. I found one way to be a bit more efficient in switching spaces. If you click on the dock icon of the app you want to see, it will automatically flip you to the right space. I like that because I don't have to remember which desktop the app is in, nor do I have to flip multiple times to get to one that might be 3 spaces over. Now, you may have noticed that I'm using the terms spaces and desktops interchangeably. I'm doing that on purpose because I don't actually understand when to use which term. When you're setting up spaces, it shows you the name of the desktop in Mission Control. So are you switching to a new desktop when you go there, or are you switching to a new space? To make this more entertaining, if you have multiple displays, such as a laptop and an external monitor, they all have their own independent sets of desktops. At the time I was writing this, my main external display was showing desktops 1, 2, 3, and 4. The Apple Cinema display was showing me desktop 5, and the internal display on the MacBook was called desktop 6. I'm in desktop 3 on the main display, so does that mean the space I'm in is really desktops 3, 5, and 6? If I use a 4-fingered swipe up on the main display and it changes me to desktop 4, is the space now defined as 4, 5, and 6 instead of 3, 5, and 6? What defines a space anyway? Right now, I only have one desktop created on the internal display and the Apple Cinema display, but I could keep going and create multiple desktops in them and create even more. Right now, but I could keep going. But I could keep going and create multiple desktops in them and have even better anarchy. And what happens to all of those spaces when I unplug my laptop from these displays? Do they collapse in on themselves, forming some kind of black hole in spaces? Yes, that's exactly what they do. I tried unplugging the two displays and the desktops all collapsed onto the laptop until I had desktops 1 to 6 all on the laptop. So now what is a space? One thing I haven't explained is how to get rid of spaces, or are they called desktops? Whatever. Anyway, if you create a desktop by making an app go full screen, simply switching to that desktop and then using the green button on the upper left to take it out of full screen will remove the desktop, or space. If you've dragged a second app into a full screen desktop so the two apps show in a split screen view, it's a little bit trickier to get rid of that space in one maneuver. First, use your gesture or keystroke to see Mission Control, and when you hover over the desktop with the two apps in split screen, you'll see a double arrow pointing inwards shown over the thumbnail. Click that and your desktop will vaporize and both apps will jump into whatever desktop you have open. If you've got a desktop with apps littered all over it, like I do already, then hovering over the thumbnail and Mission Control will show you an X button, which will close the desktop and pour those apps all over one another onto the other desktop you have open. I have to admit that when I closed out all of the desktops after running these experiments, I was kind of overwhelmed with how much information was on my screen. I'll have to go back to my method of using Command-Option-H to hide all applications except the one I'm currently working on as a way to maintain what's left of my sanity. I think you might have a flavor by now for why I keep reverting to my annoying window-littered, distraction-filled computing life without spaces. I truly want to enjoy spaces. I really, really do. But every time I work with them, I find too many problems. I might give it a whirl with programming because that's the most challenging thing I do, but for everything else, it seems like pure aggravation for me. If you have methods or strategies that help you work around these problems I have with spaces, I'd sure like to hear about them. Maybe if I told myself that I had to live with spaces for 3 straight weeks, I would find a pattern to the spaces desktop madness and learn to love spaces. I did that many years ago when I told myself I had to drive the speed limit for 3 months. And I told myself if I hated it after those 3 months, I could go back to my evil ways. And you know what? I've been driving the speed limit ever since because it worked for me. But I gotta say, I think loving spaces would be harder than loving driving the speed limit. That was nice of you to unmute in time for Tesla to shake her leash there, dear.
Yeah, I unmuted a little bit early there. A little bit.
40 messages. What have you guys been talking about? Save? Did we get any votes up for Spaces? Anybody in here a Spaces fanatic? Okay, Jill says her mind is blown. Is it about
Talk me out of
Spaces it was blown? What's that?
You talked her out of it.
Oh, trying it?
Yeah.
Oh, Richard in Alaska.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Richard showed up. I should have mentioned that.
Oh, yeah. Here you go, Richard.
Yes, Alan, that was Santa coming. Just about a month or so early.
There you go. Just bookmark that. Or actually, if you go to podfeed.com/live at any time, it'll show you what time it is at my house.
Yeah, it's useful.
Well, no, it is, because
I
you want
guess
to know
it
when
is.
is it 5 at my house, but then
Yeah.
you still have to do math. If you use time shifter clock, you don't have to do math.
Yeah, once a week that might be useful.
Oh, maybe I should put a link to time shifter clock instead,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, then they could do a little manipulating and figure out
Right.
where
I
they
wonder
will
if I
be
could
at
do an
that time.
embedded version of it. Ooh, that'd be cool. All right,
Jill
we're
lives in
24
California time.
What's that?
Jill lives in California time.
No, as one should. All right, time to spam the audience. Oh, did you see my note about the links to drop in?
No.
Did you see my email with all the links?
Oh, yeah. I
So you
did.
saw my hint. Try that. Okay, here we go. This week's hero of the show is Kenneth Kleinman, who decided to take the option of doing a one-off donation to help support the show. He went to podfeed.com/PayPal, and he typed in a dollar amount that he felt showed the value he gets and the appreciation he feels for the work we do here. I love that we have so many different ways to support the show and that Kenneth took the time and his hard-earned money to exercise this option. You know, it really makes a difference, not just in helping pay the bills, but as I told him, it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy that you get value out of the shows. That was a short ad. Oh, you're doing them separately? I talked too quickly. Okay, this next one is going to be a long one. I don't think I'm going to end up doing the last two. Got me $1 that says I run out of time. I'm at 25 minutes already. Might do the Memoji and save the, what's the other one? Yeah, I may save the time shifter clock till next week. There was always more to say about time shifter clock. Oh, you put in Patreon, Steve. He did PayPal.
Yep. Oh.
The hint was about PayPal.
Do you want me to put that one in?
Yeah, I actually wanted you to put them all in.
I'm not sure I can.
Sandy loves the
do
Memoji
that.
tip. Yeah, you can just copy and paste them.
Yeah, but
Copy paste. Copy
But-
paste. Yeah, they might.
watch
They won't
what
all
happens. They won't resolve, but I'll try it.
Well, but they'll look like links, won't they?
Let's see. Let's just give it
Try
a
it.
shot. See what it does. Yeah, I thought that might happen. See,
No.
because each one I have to select as copy link, not just copy. There's no way to copy them all as a link because it
You can't
treats
click
each.
it. Oh, okay, interesting. Because that's how I do it. I copy them, and they all copy as links.
No can.
I can.
Yeah,
so
but
what
you're
do I-
using a what do you call that?
Let's see. Using feeder. Let me see what happens. Now, I'm just curious now, because when I copy these... Yeah, no, I think it's getting stripped by... and no, that's not a dirty word, by Discord.
I can do
Okay.
this. I'll put in PayPal.
Okay. Yeah, at least put in the right one. Okay. All right.
Whoop.
Everybody buckle up. Here's a 2,800 word article. Oh, I should do a chapter mark. All right. Where is the right one? This one after all this talk. And Steve's going to take 50% credit for writing this one, right? I wasn't even mean to him in this one, Steve. Hey, you put in PayPal one-time donation and you
I
didn't
know.
copy the link.
I know. I'm
Dork.
having trouble here. Hold on.
Delete all that.
I will. Hold on. Let me get the right one in first.
Okay, you want me to do it?
No,
You got
I
her?
got it. I
You
got
her?
it.
You got her? You okay? Anybody recognize that line?
There we go.
Kevin, I said I was nice to Steve in this. I guess you don't want to hear that. All right, muting Steve. In 2019, I bought a Tesla Model 3, and when I bought it, I needed to make a decision on whether to buy it with full self-driving capability. The technology wasn't available yet, but by buying the capability in advance, I was promised I was getting a far better deal on it. FSD, as it's called, cost $5,000 at that time on top of the price of the car. They gave me no promise of when the full capability could be enabled. Now, Steve and I wanted to get an electric vehicle for environmental reasons, but we were also really interested in autonomous driving. Based on humanity's historically bad record of paying attention while driving, I really look forward to the day when humans are not allowed to drive motor vehicles. We both believe in the self-driving future. That's why I coughed up the extra $5,000. Last year, Steve bought a Tesla Model Y, and by 2020, the price, as they'd promised, to add non-enabled future full self-driving had gone up to $7,000. For the same reason as before, Steve paid for FSD. It's now late 2021, and if you buy a Tesla and want full self-driving, it will cost you $10,000 to add the capability. On the one hand, this makes me look like a super smart shopper because I got the functionality I can't use for only half the price. Tesla also has a subscription FSD program where you're able to rent the capability month to month if the hardware in your Tesla supports FSD, as all newer Teslas do. The additional features that are currently available for those who pay for full self-driving in the US include auto lane change, auto park, summon, smart summon, and navigate on autopilot. Even without full self-driving, Model S, X, 3, and Y Teslas support traffic-aware cruise control and auto steer. Now, I do have the Navigate on Autopilot, which is pretty cool, and it works fairly well. It's designed for freeway and highway use. If you select a destination in your Tesla and you engage Navigate on Autopilot, your car will drive you from the freeway on-ramp to the off-ramp closest to your destination. Once you get on the freeway, the car will automatically steer to maintain your lane and drive you to your destination off-ramp, change lanes to pass slower cars, maintain a safe distance to the car in front of you, and even change freeways when required. As I said, it does work pretty well. Of course, driver attentiveness is required while in any self-driving mode. The driver must be sufficiently alert to take over the drive if the autopilot behaves incorrectly. To help enforce this, the Teslas will sense if you have not been holding or applying slight pressure to the steering wheel on a regular basis, and it'll disengage autopilot after a couple of warnings if it senses this condition repeatedly. Now, the reason I told you this entire backstory is that Tesla has begun rolling out the beta of full self-driving, which provides additional self-driving features. You can think of FSD beta as extending Navigate on Autopilot features from freeways to city streets. This is clearly much more challenging, since a car now needs to automatically recognize and navigate traffic lights, stop signs, pedestrians, bicycles, unmarked roads, and other challenges not encountered on freeways. Steve, for some reason, was super excited about this, and he studied up on how to get in on the beta program. In order to qualify for the beta, you have to enable a monitoring app on your car that will track and score your driving over a rolling 30-day period. The Tesla mobile app shows you an aggregate safety score from 0 to 100 and also shows you a trip-by-trip score. The safety score is measured on 5 driving criteria: forward collision warnings, hard braking, aggressive turning, unsafe following, and forced autopilot disengagements. I'd like you to think about what's missing on this list of safety criteria. Where's speeding? Where's aggressive acceleration? Where's cutting off a pedestrian? Where's constantly swerving lane to lane to pass people? Where's running a red light? None of these things make any difference in your safety score. Now, Steve enabled the beta program on both of our cars, and we tried to drive as carefully as we could in hopes of getting 100 points on our safety score. The FSD beta software was going to roll out to people with scores of 100 first, and then in a few weeks, the 99s, then the 98s, and so on. Before I tell you the rest of the story, I want you to know a couple of things. I am not the world's best driver. I really do try to be, but I don't succeed. I must be a terrible driver if I can admit this, because according to a psychological study at New York University, 88% of Americans believe they're better than average drivers. Think about that for a moment. While I'm not a great driver, I don't drive aggressively. I don't tailgate. I don't swerve around slower cars. I don't slam on the brakes. I do love to accelerate quickly in my Model 3, and in fact, that's probably my favorite thing about the car. Steve, on the other hand, is a very good driver. I've been in the car when someone else makes a mistake, and he instinctively makes the exact right move to avoid what looked like an inevitable accident. However, I would call him a mildly aggressive driver. We started with the safety score monitoring, and within a few days, I was at 99 and he was at 96. Now, you know I'm far too good of a person to ever rub his nose in on that, right? Heck no, I was all over that. But then I got a single collision avoidance warning and my score dropped to a 79. Now, Steve had every right to mock me for it, but instead he chose the high road and he was sympathetic. As I've said, I'm realistic about my driving, but I think Tesla's collision avoidance warning is not working properly. I know this sounds like justification for my bad driving, but hear me out first. Let's say you're driving on a straight road and somebody turns left in front of you to go into a side street. As a human, you can measure their trajectory based on their current speed. Now, technically, they might just suddenly stop in the middle of the turn, but given enough distance to stop if they do, you would proceed at your normal speed and pass well after they complete their turn. I think that Tesla should be able to figure that out, but Tesla's collision avoidance warning loses its ever-loving mind when this happens. Unless you actually take your foot off the accelerator and get ready for the brake, it will get upset with you. You can be 200 feet from the intersection and you'll still get that warning that will ruin your safety score. Here's another example. We live off of a street with some very deep drainage dips at each intersection. Remember these because they come up in the plot again later. As you drive down this street, each driver, if they're paying attention, will slow down enough to go through the dip to avoid bottoming out their car, and then they will immediately speed up as they come out of the dip. I was driving along with plenty of room behind the car in front of me when they slowed down to take the dip. I got a collision avoidance warning for that. I guarantee you there was a 0% chance I was going to hit the person in front of me. I also got a few aggressive turn warnings, but those were on me. You see, the center of gravity of my car with its low profile and a giant heavy battery underneath makes it so much fun to take turns really quickly. So I'll take that one. As it turns out, collision avoidance warnings do the most possible damage to your safety score. The safety score is also calculated based on incidents per 100 miles driven. Getting 2 collision avoidance warnings made getting my total score back up high with how few miles I actually drive was kind of like trying to get your GPA up your senior year after fooling around in your freshman year. So here's the really sad news to this story. I successfully got to 99 before Steve. To be honest, I didn't want to turn on FSD beta first. I wanted him to go first. He was so excited, though, that we enabled it on my car. As of the time that you're hearing this, the current version of FSD beta is 10.4. Tesla software versions are continually updated with bug fixes and enhancements, and right now 10.5 is already on the horizon and being tested. And now, after all that, I will now tell you what I think of Tesla's full self-driving beta. It's terrible. It's like a student driver who is also drunk. I think calling an alpha would be an insult to alpha software everywhere. Let me elaborate by describing the notes we took on our very first test. We decided to drive 3.6 miles to our friend's house with me at the wheel, and then the 3.6 miles back with Steve at the wheel. I will say that I'm really happy Steve was with me for this first test because I don't think he would have believed me if he hadn't witnessed it himself. All right, I backed out of my driveway and I pulled to the curb. There were a couple of trash cans a little ways ahead of me next to the curb. I enabled full stop. Okay, stop. Stuttering Stanley. In the movie. Next to the curb. Okay. Oop. There were a couple of trash cans a little ways ahead of me. I did it again. Not trash can, trash cans. There were a couple of trash cans a little ways ahead of me next to the curb. I enabled full self-driving with 2 downward strokes of the stalk on the steering column. The car drove straight at the trash cans and I had to slam on the brakes. I had driven 10 feet so far. I enabled FSD again and I let it drive to the first intersection where the light was red. It correctly turned on the right turn signal, and it didn't pull to the right as it should have, and it didn't make turning against the red. It didn't make the. It correctly. I should have said it stopped too. It correctly came to a stop and turned on the right turn signal, but it did not pull to the right as it should have. There wasn't a marked pocket, so maybe we should let it off the hook. But it also didn't make the turn against the red light on its own. Now, since then, I've learned that it will eventually turn right on a red light, but it waits a very long time and is extremely cautious, which maybe is a good thing. When the light turned green, the car made a successful right turn. It picked up speed until it was going 35 miles per hour, which was the speed limit. I happened to be on the road I described earlier with those very steep dips, and it barreled straight ahead at 35 miles an hour right into one of these dips. I was forced to hit on the brakes to avoid inevitable damage to my car. I came up to another intersection where it correctly navigated into the left turn lane and it put on the signal. Now, this was a tricky intersection because it had a green arrow, but FSD Beta correctly recognized it and made the left turn. However, it made this turn in many small, jerky adjustments rather than a smooth curve, very much like a student driver who doesn't know how far to turn the wheel. But its bigger error was that as it made the turn, it headed right towards the curb of the median separating the oncoming lanes. I had to wrest control and turn properly into the lane. This particular error happened consistently throughout our test drive. As we were now tootling along a 40 mile an hour... I am stepping a lot. As we were now tootling along at 40 miles per hour on a main road, the car suddenly slowed way down with no one in front of me. That was great. Then it stopped at green light. I could see no reason why it had trouble misinterpreting this particular light when it clearly understood the much more subtle left turn arrow on an otherwise red light. Later, as we continued on our trip, a driver cut me off, pulling very closely in front of me, coming in from the right. FSD did not react at all, forcing me to hit the brakes to avoid a collision. After all the collision avoidance warnings it gave me when I was driving, this mistake on its part really annoyed me. On our drive, we encountered a T intersection without any traffic control. The car inched forward, and on screen it said, "Autopilot creeping forward to check for visibility." We thought that was actually pretty great. Anyway, at this point, we had finally driven an entire 3.6 miles. We stopped the car, waited for our heart rates to drop back down, and wiped our sweaty palms. I then switched places and put Steve now behind the wheel. It had whole new entertainment in store for Steve. For some reason, it started to automatically lower the speed of the vehicle to well below the speed limit. At one point, it changed it down to 22 miles per hour when we were in a 35 mile per hour zone. We couldn't find any reason for why it was doing this, and I haven't experienced it again since, so maybe it was just a fluke. We had a couple of left turn pocket maneuvers on his drive, and it didn't consistently make the turn when it was allowed to do so. What it did consistently do was slow way down just as it got into the left turn pocket, not moving all the way forward to the limit line. This is about the quickest way you can aggravate another human in Los Angeles. We had to keep hitting the accelerator when we went into left turn pockets. On each and every left turn, it also consistently tried to run over the curb of the median as I described earlier. Thinking maybe we were just nervous Nellies and it wouldn't actually have hit the curb, but it just would have gotten close, Steve decided to let it go on its own at one intersection because the median was painted and not a physical curb. Nope, the car drove probably a good foot over the double yellow line as it made the turn. As we neared home, we were on a 3-lane road where the right lane merges in shortly before a big intersection. This merge is clearly painted on the road. This car changed lanes from the center to the right lane just as that merge was starting. Knowing this was foolish, Steve pulled the car back into the left. Now we were in a very wide lane as the 2 lanes narrowed down, so the car decided the center of that massive lane was the right place to be when a human driver would have known to hug the left side as the right was merging in. We've seen it do this on merging lanes on the freeway too, so it's definitely not got the hang of it yet. At this point, our 7.2 mile trip had ended and we were both emotionally exhausted. Now, feedback is very important in any beta testing. Tesla has a couple of methods for this. They explicitly tell you to tap the video icon on the top of the screen that was added with the FSD beta software. Now think about this. I've got a drunk student driver in control of the car. Do you seriously want me to take my eyes off the road long enough to find a 1.5 centimeter wide icon on the screen and tap it so you can grab the video evidence of how the car messed up? I'm not likely to do that. Now, the other option, which is available on all Teslas no matter the software, is to use the right scroll button on the steering wheel. This button, when clicked in, engages voice commands. One thing you can do is say bug report, and as quickly as you can, describe what went wrong. I am serious about saying it quickly. You have like maybe 6 seconds to blurt out whatever went wrong. I'm not sure that's as good as capturing the video, so if I safely can, I will try to tap that little video icon, but not if it endangers my life or the lives of others. Steve has continued to chase and keep the elusive 99 score, but he keeps getting kicked back to 98. Recently, we were on a long drive, and I can testify he was at least 7 or 8 car lengths behind the car in front of us, and the car gave off a collision avoidance warning for no reason. It was really tragic because he'd gotten up to 99, but he needed to hold it there, and because of the stupidity of the algorithm, he lost his 99 again. Steve has said that he's driving much more cautiously than he used to, and he's noticed he's less anxious in some ways because of that. I noticed that when I started driving the speed limit, by the way. On the other hand, he's anxious because he wants that score to go up, so it's been a very double-edged sword for him. The 98s are getting into the beta soon with the release of FSD beta version 10.5, so hopefully the car won't make any dumb judgments on him till then, and he'll be able to enjoy the fun of having a drunk student driver in charge of a 5,000-pound vehicle. Now, we do have some unanswered questions about the beta program. One is whether our individual vehicles are actually learning. Do we have to let each student car drive frequently so that it gets the hang of it? I kind of assumed, perhaps erroneously, that the algorithms were all coming down from the cloud and the collective was learning, but based on how bad it is, we're wondering if that might be incorrect. Also, our cars are equipped with a radar, which is used to estimate the distance to vehicles and other objects ahead of the car, and how quickly they're approaching and things like that. Now, newer Teslas only have optical sensors. Now, newer Teslas only have optical sensors. FSD beta software eliminates the use of the radar and only uses the optical sensors. We have both, but it just uses the optical sensors. Tesla calls the use of optical sensors only and enhanced AI algorithms for self-driving Tesla Vision. Sounds like WandaVision. Anyway, we're wondering if the removal of the radar is an explanation of how much worse the experience has been than we expected it to be. The bottom line is, we're quite surprised at how poor self-driving is in this full self-driving beta and has been in my car. We're still bullish on self-driving as a long-term future goal, but we're sad that it feels much further away in time than we expected. I look forward to Steve's experience with FSD beta on his Model Y, and I hope that maybe it works better for his car. For now, I only rarely let it drive my car because it's just too darn nerve-wracking. There we go. You know what, Kevin, when you do 2 sets of those, no, 3, 4, 5 sets, I can't see anything anybody's written. I have to always scroll.
Well, I think that's why he does it, because he wants to make sure you don't miss it. Fills the screen, essentially.
Yeah. See, Kevin, wasn't I nice to Steve?
I think so. You gave me.
I made fun of your driving, did I? He says
I think you made fun of the car's driving.
His driving.
Unless that drunk student driver you were referring to the whole time was me.
No. Kevin's saying I made fun of his driving when I was there.
In Virginia.
I don't remember.
I don't recall doing that. Did she? I'm sure she did.
I mean, it sounds like me.
Yeah, it does.
Somebody drives you all over, showing you the sights, takes you to get apple cider donuts and everything, and then you give them garbage for it.
I want to check something here. I want to make sure the camera's not focusing on Grogu. I think it looks like it's focusing on you. Yeah, okay. All right, we're going back.
I think it's a little bit on Grogu, but
when he was turning around in the parking lot. I don't recall that.
Oh, wait, parking lot? You were on a big piece of grass. You were like off-roading. Okay.
Now the truth comes out. You doing a chapter mark here?
Yeah, I think
you have one more, right? Not 2 more?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to do the tiny tip and I'll save time shifter clock. That one's pretty long. And next week is Thanksgiving, so it'll be nice to have something in the can.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me to get rid of it in the title and stuff, though. That's what I always forget. I leave it in the title, but I take it out of the body.
All right.
Those are the roads in Virginia. Well, I've pictured dirt roads, but... All right, this one is short. And it's from Marty.
Marty.
Okay. Oh, I got to do Tiny Tip music, too. Love the Tiny Tip music. Alan's back, and he posted Time Shifter Clock. You got to set it to 5 p.m. Los Angeles time. Well, our tiny tip comes to you courtesy of Marty Gensius in our Slack. He wrote it up in podfeed.com/Slack. It is a useless tip, and it adds no real value, but it may surprise and delight you. He posted the idea, but I'm going to do a lot more elaborate explanation with full screenshots in the show notes that you can follow along. What Marty figured out is that you can change your avatar for your Mac into an animated Memoji. I'll explain first how to set it up, and then I'll tell you why this becomes even more fun. Before you can play along on your Mac, you need to create your own Memoji using your iPhone or iPad Pro. I'm not going to walk through the instructions for that because Apple has a support article explaining it over at support.apple.com, and of course there's a link to that in the show notes. If you don't want to do that or don't have a device to create your own Memoji, you can play along with one of the animated ones that Apple provides, like the octopus or the alien or poop. Anyway, once you have a Memoji created, it's time to set it up on macOS. Launch System Preferences and click on whatever image or icon you've added to your account that shows at the top of the System Preferences screen. That pane comes up, not that pane, the pane. Stop. The pane that comes up will have a series of options down the left side, including camera and photos, and we want to select Memoji at the top of that list. With Memoji selected, you also want to make sure that you're on the Memoji tab at the top of the page. You should see your Memoji along with the animals and other animated options, like poop. Anyway, now select the Memoji you want to use from the grid of options. Now select the Pose tab from the top of the pane. This will allow us to choose what your Memoji looks like when it's static and not animated. You should see a grid of possible poses from winking to skeptical to happy. I chose the option with my tongue sticking out because that's actually a pose I often use in real life. By the way, I noticed Steve chose the sticking the tongue out one too. Anyway, once you've chosen the pose, click Save. At this point, you'll see the static pose Memoji as your avatar in System Preferences. It also becomes your avatar in lots of other places. I know it's in Messages as seen by people you chat with, and I also noticed that when I went into Fitness Plus on the Apple TV, it was that Memoji. So this might be like your iCloud Memoji, so it might be everywhere. Anyway, the real fun is when you log into your Mac from locking the screen, logging out, or restarting. Assuming you don't have an Apple Watch set to automatically unlock your Mac, which will destroy the effect because it's so quick, you'll see your Memoji looking around on the login screen. As you move your mouse around, I get the feeling that she's sort of following you. I'm not positive, but I think so, because I know if you pass right over her face, she sort of focuses straight at you. Now, click in the password field, and she'll tilt her head down and watch you type. For fun, mistype your password. If it fails, she'll make a face that shows she's very disappointed in you. When you successfully type in your password, a split second before you're shown your desktop, she'll give you a giant grin. If you want to see what this looks like, I made a short video and I embedded it into the show notes demonstrating the effect. As I said at the beginning of this very important tip, this tip has zero nutritional value, but it absolutely delights me. Thank you, Marty, for telling us about it. There we go.
Whew.
That flushed me out to 45 minutes.
I think that's a good length for the show.
And the one thing I figured... Well, let me go ahead and close out the show if I can find the right... Nope, not this one. Not that one. Not that one. Where are you? That one. All right. Well, as much fun as this has been for me, it's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeed.com anytime you like? Have you got methods for using spaces that you think work really well and you want to send me an email about it? Use that address. You can send me questions or suggestions, or you can record reviews and send them to me that way. Now, I've left Facebook, so Twitter is a good place to follow me online at Podfeed. Better yet, join our Slack community at podfeed.com/Slack, where you can find wonderful things like that really, really important Memoji tip that you just heard about from Marty Gensius. You can talk to me and all of the other lovely NosillaCastaways in there. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. You can support the show at podfeed.com/Patreon or with a one-time donation like Kenneth did at podfeed.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. And was his name Kevin? Kenneth. Did I say? I think I said Kenneth.
I'm sorry.
Remember, everything good starts. You can support the show or with a one-time donation like Kenneth did. Whew, nailed it.
Kenneth.
Yes, dear.
No, I think that's right.
Okay, good. What is? There's happy faces all over. This is a new. It's a new look. Oh, he probably wants a chapter count, doesn't he?
Yeah, and we also need to remove that title.
Oh, from the title. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stretch this down. So I see 5.
And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus 1, 5.
Subscribe. All right, cool. So now what I need to do is I need to create a new post for next week. And I need to close that, and I need to call it NC. Nobody can leave until I get this fixed. Oh, it's 6:11.
Yeah, it's pretty late.
Wow. 864, and I'm going to take DST out, put it here. I think we're going to end up with 2 posts on that subject now. And take that out. Okay, and save that. Close that one. But we got to go do it in Feeder too. Don't think you can just leave when it's... No, it's a late 8:11, 9:11. Okay, this is good. Where's 863? I created it. Huh. I must not have saved it. I had to create 863 in order to give you the links. And I had it open just a second ago. All right. I'll find it somewhere or recreate it. It's easy enough. I've got an automation. All right. It's Monday afternoon. Oh, Kiwi Spoon is here. Hi, Stephen. How are you? Oh, all right. We should probably let class go, and I'll finish this up after they leave. Thank you very much for coming.
I think so. Thank you all.
Did we get a vote on the special effects?
I think it was. I think people in general liked it. John, I don't know. I wasn't sure about you. Was it annoying? You seem to not commit
John's
one way
annoying.
or the other.
All right, here we go. Kevin and John are going to answer. Was what annoying?
The
Are you annoying?
Cinema effect in the cameras that we're using
The portrait
tonight.
mode.
Portrait mode. That's it.
So here's portrait mode off. Jill likes seeing the back. And that's portrait mode on. Yeah, I think maybe I'll just keep it for when I'm too lazy to clean up.
Yeah, because we can't see Sandy's pillow quite as well, and we can't see old Grogu in the back. Big Grogu.
Yeah. All right. I won't say it's annoying, but different. All right. We should let everybody go.
Yep.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Bye, Rose.